Good evening. This is Pastor Barbara, aka Preacher with Parrots. Today is the 13th of May of 2017. This is not a class. Um, I'm making this video independently of anybody else being here. This particular video has to do with pain. And by the way, Preacher with Parrots, my fourth channel on YouTube, is now approaching 300 videos. The videos are not all on the same topic. Most of them are Bible studies, and they start with OT for Old Testament or NT for New Testament. There's a series on caring for parrots, and that's what the title says. Um, there are breaking news for Israel, prophetic things, things to watch. Um, and they will always say that breaking news or update. Now, before I had three channels. One was ministry in English, one was ministry in Spanish, and one was about the birds. And each one had a separate email. I thought it was very logically laid out, but people would get the email for one mixed up with the email for another. It worked fine for me, but it didn't work for the people. So I'm back down to just promoting one. Hopefully, everybody will remember Preacher with Parrots. That has been in existence for 12 years. Before that, it was the Bird Lady and Pastor Barbara. 12 years ago, it became Preacher with Parrots, and while it's kind of a crazy name, it stuck, and people have no clue who Barbara Shelton is. But remember me from live video or Stickum or some other network, and Preacher with Parrots has stuck. So just go to Preacher with Parrots on YouTube and look at the title. Anything about pain, if that's what your interest is limited to, will have the word pain in the title. And you can just keep flipping it when you look quickly over one page and don't see pain. And the ones in pain are all in 2017, so you don't have to go back that far. Okay, I want to use tonight to introduce to you an organization called the U.S.Pain Foundation. They send out something that I get almost daily called the Pain Report. Some of these I almost immediately delete. I have no interest in them. I'm sure they're not going to be of any benefit to you. For example, some bug that lives on an island in the Caribbean has got somewhere in its little body something poisonous. Somebody believes that thing, that poisonous thing in that bug's body can turn into a medicine that will take away pain and not be addicting. Well, you and I know there's already pain medicine that's not addicting, but we got some people out there that haven't figured that out. Of course, they don't have pain. How would they know? It would take thousands, maybe millions of dollars to bring it to where it is a medicine. And then some companies got to make it and sell it. And then a couple of years go by that you find out, is it really working or is it hurting people? You and I, at least I at age 86, don't have time to wait till they develop that thing. So I just deleted it. There are some other things that maybe would be of interest to only 1 or 2% of all of us. And I'm not going to give you a half-hour video or a 15-minute or a 45-minute video on something that's just going to benefit just a few people. It's not practical. That's like preaching to the choir. But of those things that I think will benefit us, I want to share some with you. The U.S.Pain Foundation has a spokesperson who I believe is excellent. I was going to write an article. I was going to write um, the FDA, Federal Drug Administration. I was going to write the president. And when I realized that Suzanne Stewart had already done so, and done so in an excellent fashion. You know me, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If somebody's invented it, I'll just show them where the wheel is and how to use it. And that's what I'm doing here. I want to read to you, I may paraphrase it some in order to save time. Sorry, Suzanne. An article that came out first um, not that long ago, April 21st, 2017. It's called Chronic Pain in a World of Intolerance. I saw something on Fox News by somebody that I didn't really know very well. And he acted like he knew everything about pain, and it irritated me. And apparently, she has seen similar things that have irritated her. Being a health advocate and activist for people like myself who live with chronic pain is becoming more of a challenge. I'm feeling both protective and proactive. People are talking about me. I got to protect myself, and I got to do something about it. I want to help change the way society and the government thinks about chronic pain and the persons living with the daily struggles from it. I also want to put more positive spin on something that's been difficult to stay positive about it. Well, Governor Chris Christie is becoming the drug czar. He's talking about changing many lives in a negative way. Now, I've already told you in previous videos that there are people talking about all the people dying from an overdose of opiates medications. You see the reports of this on television, and the ambulances are going downtown and they're picking them up on the streets. These are not people going to their doctors that are taking the medicine prescribed by a doctor in a manner prescribed by a doctor. But then that wouldn't meet their needs and desires, would it? Okay, back to what Suzanne says. Our president is putting persons in charge. Now, she has written to him in the last week and a half. I mentioned it in one of my mailings, which you may have gotten if you get my mailings. If you don't, you can ask me for them. I'd be happy to send them to you. He's putting someone in charge of what he has only heard of as the opiate epidemic. We know what they're talking about. But if you hear 2 or 3 5-minute something on television, these people obviously don't know what you and I, who have lived with chronic pain, and let me tell you, chronic pain means pain over a period of time. Acute has to do with how strong is the pain. Pain can be mild, moderate, severe, acute. Chronic means you have it over a period of time, at least 3 to 6 months. He listens to what others tell him and reads about statistics and the numbers of death and the number of people who've died. And she goes on to explain, well, when they're talking about somebody who's just lost them, you're not going to do something to upset people who have just lost somebody. We wouldn't do that. There are reporters who are speaking against opiates on the television and producers making films about the Oxycontin Express. Oxycontin is another name for Percocet. Hang on here. I'm trying to read something and I can only say that if I was misinformed and heartbroken, that I might do the same thing. But I'm not misinformed, and I honestly feel that if I lost someone to an overdose, I would still try not to hurt anybody else while I was in mourning. I wouldn't try to punish the whole class for the behavior of one. I would not want to go on a mission and try to save everybody else while hurting as many as possible and not even knowing it to make myself feel better. She must have watched the same program I did, because she goes on to say, I turned the TV on the other night on one of the news stations that had a long special about the opiate epidemic. I was yelling at the screen, and I was yelling at the guy whose picture was on the screen and telling him, you don't have a clue. The person that they had on as a guest was somebody who had broken his leg, had surgery, and had become an opiate addict. You know, anything's possible. I suppose you could take an opiate pill for 3 or 4 weeks and become addicted. I suppose you could get drunk overnight and become addicted. I don't know about these things. That's highly unlikely. And yet, people have their own agenda, don't they, when they make a television program or whatever. And that's what a researcher like myself has to do, is to find, when somebody's talking, what is their agenda. I understand her agenda. It's similar to mine. I made the decision a few months ago, actually, January 18th of this year at 3 p.m. I made that decision that regardless of what happened to me, regardless of whether I found pain relief or not, or could continue in the so-called clinic I was a part of, I would be an advocate. Regardless of my condition, regardless of what I did, I would still be an advocate for those who are suffering intractable pain. Intractable pain is pain for which there is no other known relief except strong medication, opiate, or whatever you want to call it. Acupuncture doesn't do it. Physical therapy doesn't do it. Hot tubs doesn't do it. Exercise doesn't do it. Positive thinking doesn't do it. Putting your pain in a cloud and shooting it up into the heavens doesn't do it. No pain relief except through opiate medication. That is what intractable pain is. And that's the people we're talking about. We're not talking about the people who could find relief somewhere that exists, but they just haven't found it yet. We're talking about people for which there is no other solution for their pain. They may be taking pain medication, which allows them to work. If this thing that's going on in the government now continues, and some of them that I've heard on television are talking about how fast can we cure these people, 30 days, 60 days? Let's cure them and get them out as fast as we can. Do they think that is a cure? Well, she said she turned on now. This is not the same thing as someone living with daily chronic pain, knowing that life will always be this way. People like me who live with chronic pain day in, day out, do need to try physical therapy and other first choice treatments available. We realize that we need to give different options a chance. Now, hang on. Lost my place. I can do that reading. I did that in a video Bible study. I can lose my place on a computer just like I can in the Bible. We realize we need to give different options a chance, but when a patient with several high pain illnesses, now I have as many illnesses as I have fingers. Some of them cause me pain, some of them don't. But even if you take away half of them, I have at least this many diseases that cause pain. And so does she. We need to know that medications many of us have taken for several years that give us some semblance of a life are going to remain available, and nobody will rip the rug out from under us. Now, each time I get a mailing like this, there are those who answer it. Well, wait a minute. She has more that she says here. I read an article a while back. And the article was, "The word is credibility, not stigma, in the prescription opiate heroin epidemic." That really hit a nerve with me, says she. It would with me too. It upset me because the writer puts down the responsible chronic pain patient and lumps us all together in the same category as heroin addicts. She wrote about the deaths of people who've overdosed. How many of these deaths were people who took only the prescribed dosage of their pain medication, or are they adding street drugs? And I have prayer requests coming in on Prayer and Praise of people who mix what they're getting from their pain doctor with Xanax and cough medicine and a bunch of other things. She wrote about the details of people who've overdosed. I read another article in which the writer said that the CDC even admits to giving out skewed data, taking information and regurgitating it so that what comes up is not exactly what you put down. The CDC has qualifiers for their morbidity and mortality. She researched the information that she was given and found that those qualifiers are as follows. This is what people were doing to make their article fit what they wanted it. If approximately 1/5, that's 20%. Wait a minute, of drug overdose deaths lack information about the specific drugs involved. They just were drugs. Now, any drug you get on the street is not a pure drug. It can be mixed or by the people that sell it. I mean, you're not talking with pharmacologists. You're talking about suppliers on the street. Some of them might have been opiates. I understand that opiates are the cheapest drug you can buy on the street. I mean, what do I know about it? But that's what I've heard. Heroin deaths might be misclassified as morphine because morphine and heroin are metabolized similarly. The writer also said if heroin deaths are being misclassified as morphine, which results in the underreporting of heroin overdose deaths. Also, when we're reading or hearing reports about fentanyl, my pharmacist told me that fentanyl was 100% as strong as the morphine pill. And on the internet, I can't remember the exact language I used to bring it up, but you can go to Google and put some of these words in, chart that compares the strengths of opiates or the strengths of medications or something. It takes every drug from an aspirin to drugs that are so strong I've never heard of them and compares them to what I'm going to call the morphine pill. Most of us think of morphine as a shot because so few of us have ever had it. And on any occasion we have, it's been in the emergency room or in a hospital, and it's been an injection. So I'm using the term morphine pill. There's something that I cannot think the name of it. It's hydro something that is equal to it. So a patient could have 90 whatever milligrams or whatever they're talking about of those a day, where the fentanyl is 100 times as strong. So that would be only one of those a day. It's a kind of convoluted, difficult to understand how anybody would come up with this crazy concept anyway, but that's what they're talking about. Most of these deaths are from fentanyl. It's extremely, extremely. You've heard me in a previous video tell you how I was given that on my first visit, not told how strong it was, not told except by a pharmacologist, that you can't just suddenly say, I'm not going to take any more. You will get really sick. I was never told that. When I found out about it, I did something about it. You know me. I don't put up with no junk, no garbage. We can't lump medications and street drugs together. That's irresponsible. 5% of the people that become addicted to opiates are doing it legitimately. They just, 5% just become addicted. That means 95% don't. So shall we withhold the only thing that helps intractable pain from 95% of the people because 5% of the people will become addicted? And there is a cure for those addictions, and I'm a specialist in that cure. That's for another video, but I know that because of my dealings with other ministries in the past. I know a few addicts now. I know personally hundreds of ex-addicts, and to reputation thousands. So let's not get the two of these things mixed up. They are not the same thing. You don't deal with them the same way. You don't cure them the same way. As a matter of fact, I know of more cures for people who are addicted than I know of people who they're trying to cure who are not addicted. 5% of the people who are prescribed opiate pain medications go on to become addicted, according to our own National Pain Report in November of 2015. As a legitimate chronic pain patient, I can verify that we only take pain medications to be relieved of horrible chronic pain, nerve pain, and the pain from such illnesses as CRPS, plus many others. We don't become addicted to our prescription medications. Our bodies may become tolerant or dependent, but we're not addicts. That would be the same tolerance and dependence as somebody with kidney problems that was having to go on the machine every other day. The writer said, if heroin deaths are misclassified as morphine, that results in underreporting of heroin overdose deaths. And wouldn't the opposite be true? 5% of the people, oh, I read that. There are support systems such as the U.S.Pain Foundation that I'm reading from, and the RSDSA, who encourage the chronic pain patients not to be hopeless. You know, when you can't get from your doctor what he's given you for years, and the government, some bureaucrat is sitting up in Washington making rules, who probably is too young to know what real pain is, it can become discouraging. People need to be educated and not be afraid of them. Chronic pain patients are not candidates for other types of pain control, such as the pain pump, the spinal cord stimulator, and all those other. If you're taking opiates, your doctor has tried these other things and they haven't worked. And only one thing has worked, and that's what they're wanting to take away. Taking a medication away that helps so many pain patients to just put their feet on the ground in the morning seems cruel. Let me go on and read what a few people, because you're going to hear from some pain people now. All these people are people like you and I. The first comment is, The second comment is, you're so right in everything you said. We need to stick together and not give in. We need a popular person to represent us, someone well known, respected, and maybe educated in pain and how horrible it is to live like this. Anyone know if somebody like that would take us on? Our calls are unheard. It seems months go by and we still have no word. The CDC has decided to get involved. I'm so tired and feeling defeated. This shouldn't be happening in the great USA. Let's see what somebody else has said. Let me find one that isn't too long. One says, I support you 100%. Just tell me how we can help. I'll be there and do as much as I can. I now live back in Texas after 21 years in St. Louis. Like most of us here, I suffered from extensive neuropathy in my feet, legs, and hands. That's one of my 5. I also have arthritis in my shoulder. That's one of mine. I, in addition, have bone spurs, bursitis, and a substantial tear in the rotator cuff. So they can't operate on it because if they did, there's still so much stuff in the shoulder that's going to hurt that the surgeon would be wasting his time and I would be wasting time recuperating. This pain report has to at least have 4 experience in pain issues. She goes on to speak. Here, let's go to another person. Jim, I wonder how many of us are out there. There seems to be a pattern in these neck surgeries. The most glaring thing of all is that no research is to their effectiveness. My pain physician told me that there's a 50% failure rate at 5 years. Okay, let's go. I know exactly how you feel, Lisa. I had to go over 2 years after my botched neck surgery. Well, mine was a botched back surgery. My neck surgery was very, very good. But what got me into this situation was a doctor that ripped out the dura, which meant I had spinal cord leaks. And every time the fluid would leak out, you know what happens if you've ever had a spinal fluid surgery or something of that nature. Got the same results from 3 others, and each one had ordered an MRI, which brings me to pain management. I mentioned earlier in the post one neurosurgeon sending me pain management injections, raising my sugar levels, but had to have them stay in the clinic. Well, let me go to one more and I'll quit. Just want to give you an idea of how some of these people who are in the same situation that many of us are in, no, we know what they're talking about. And the rest of the world hasn't experienced it, so they don't know. Drugs are I like this one. Drugs are a billion-dollar business, and I don't mean for dealers and users. Big Pharma has a lot of money tied up in name brand narcotics whose patents they continually renew. They recently fought to keep the law dead, I think that was it, under patent in court. They won their competition, had to recall their generics that were much cheaper. They made a lot of money off of Narcan, a drug for overdoses, and they cornered the market. The drug costs $4,500 for 2 doses. That'd be $2,250 a dose. They also fund their own drug research and pay a great deal of money to lobbyists in Washington, D.C. to influence the FDA. Big Pharma is terrified of medical marijuana. I have a video coming up on that. I didn't want to put it in the same video, but I have a great deal of information on that. Currently, only 2 places are allowed to study it, and they're allowed to buy their weed from one supplier whose product is vastly inferior to what can be purchased in places where it's illegal. I know of another country that is doing it, and they have invited American scientists to go to that country to study with them if they want to. That country is not able to export the marijuana, but they have invented a number of products to get the marijuana into the system, and those products can be exported, but that's another video. Big Pharma knows that medical marijuana shows promise as an addiction withdrawal medication. I didn't know that. I know that it has promise as pain medication, a particular strain of marijuana, not any marijuana, and safer alternatives to opiates. You can bet that they can find a way to own the market and they will be paying to sabotage medical marijuana. Well, I happen to know. I don't remember which brand of cigarettes, but one of them has put a great deal of money into already the medical marijuana thing. I guess they're hoping to get medical marijuana cigarettes. Who knows? Um, Chemical dependency treatment is another area that's big misses. Chemical dependency professional is one of the fastest growing careers in America. Treatment costs thousands of dollars and is covered by virtually all insurance, including Medicaid, with an alleged 40 to 60% relapse rate. They make millions. Connected to treatment facilities are case management, therapy, housing programs, employment training, and much more. I know because that was my field. Trust me. That isn't the employers making the big bucks. Most of us max out at around $47,000 a year with a master's degree, if we're lucky, few benefits included. The DEA has operated since the Reagan years with very little oversight. I'll let it go at that. I just wanted you to know about this organization. I want to give you one other thing which they've sent out to add to this, and then I'll close because I don't want to give you a 3-hour video. I'd rather break it up into pieces. Let me find the one I was looking for, if I can do it here quickly. If not, I'll try to do it from memory. Let's see. Okay. You go to the doctor. You go into his office, you sit down. You have a goal. You have a reason for going. The doctor has a reason for having you come. Is your reason for being there the same as the doctor's reason? Let me click on something and tell you what this report says. I'm almost there. Pain sufferers look to reduce pain intensely and identify the cause of pain. Pain physicians want to improve your function and reduce the medication side effects, including dependency, demonstrating a marked disagreement in their treatment goals. I'm going to do this from memory, so I won't get the percentages right. I know that 48% of pain sufferers who go to the doctor, just one particular visit, their goal is to reduce the amount of pain they're feeling. They went to the doctor because they want to have less pain. Their second goal, if I recall, is 21%, 22%. The other 22%, their reason for going to the doctor was to find out what made them hurt. I'm with them. Pain is a message. Pain says something's wrong, and it means you find out what's wrong. Why would I prefer that to the other? Well, because maybe there's something I can do. They used to say that if you had arthritis, you wanted to be where there was less humidity in the environment. I live on a mountain by a lake, but 60 to 70 miles away is Palm Springs. And I used to go out years ago when I was teaching. Sometimes I'd go out for a weekend to desert hot springs and just get in the hot tubs. If it were true, let's say that all I had was arthritis and it bothered me, And if it were true that going someplace with less humidity in the environment would help, then I could move. I'm not exactly retired, but I'm not working at a job, and what I do, I could do anywhere. So I could sell here and buy there, and I would be helping to solve my problem. If it were, let's say my pain were in the stomach or something instead of nerve pain, uh, and it were dietary, I could change my diet. I would want to know what makes me hurt because maybe if I know what it is, I can fix it. Doctors, on the other hand, were not that interested in how bad I hurt or what made me hurt. They were more interested in changing, for example, how I function. If, let's say, I told them I can't walk, just around the house, that's all. Their goal would be to get me maybe walking a block and then walking a block and a half and then walking 2 blocks. Another goal of theirs would be to see if they could get me to function on less medication. Another goal of theirs might be to get me to try other modalities other than medication. If my goals and the doctor's goals were the same, would we get farther? What do you think? There was another article, and with this one I definitely will close. See, I'm even closing the other computer. And that article was about doctors and patients. And it said, if you trust your doctor, do you have less pain? Now, you've seen me do this and this before. We are body, mind, and spirit. If our mind is really active at a given moment, the other parts of us are less listened. I was trying to explain this to a physical therapist last Thursday. Sitting in the waiting room were people that had been in all kinds of accidents, had all kinds of surgeries, and got around in a number of different ways with a number of different kinds of assistance. And I told her, if this place were on fire, I said, everybody would find a way to get to the door and they would not hurt. The fire, the emotion, the fear, the getting to the door before the fire got to you would so overwhelm your mind and your spirit that your body would just be going along. I remember what happened on December 11th. I woke up late that day and turned on the television, and I didn't know what in the world was going on, and the phone rang. And I asked the person who called me, what is going on? I felt no pain. I was so, and the same thing happens in an automobile accident. Something, it just one part of you, and if it happens to be your mind, is so full. And later I will give you some examples in other videos of things that you can do that will temporarily halt your pain for half hour, for an hour, whatever, because of things that you can do that will so overtake you that your body isn't going to be feeling pain during that time. Okay, this is 40 minutes. That's a long enough video. Until the next video, hang in there. Things will get better. God bless.